Picture this, a beautiful meadow, sunlight, the buzzing of bees. We've all seen it, right? A bee lands on a flower, doing its thing. It feels like the most peaceful, perfect scene in nature. But what if I told you there's something else going on? Something hidden?
Well, it turns out that this simple, beautiful moment might actually be part of a secret network for disease. Some fascinating research suggests that these flowers, these beautiful blossoms, could actually be biological booby traps.
Okay, so to get our heads around this, we need to start thinking about flowers a little differently. Think of them less as just pretty plants and more like a popular cafe where all sorts of different visitors are stopping by for a drink.
Now, two of the most common customers at this floral cafe are honeybees and bumblebees. And here's the thing, they both love nectar, but they each have their own set of diseases and parasites. You know, honeybees get sick with honeybee stuff, and bumblebees get sick with bumblebee stuff. And for the longest time, everyone just kind of assumed those diseases stayed in their own lane.
So that's the big mystery, right? If these two groups of bees have their own separate sets of parasites, how on earth do those parasites make the leap from one species to a completely different one? Well, the answer, as it turns out, is the cafe itself. To really figure this out, scientists basically had to become detectives. They set up this brilliant, really elegant experiment to see if the flowers were, in fact, the scene of the crime.
They created a controlled environment, this big flight cage, and brought in all the key players. You've got two sets of flowers, you've got a group of infected bees, the parasite providers, and you have a group of perfectly healthy bees.
Okay, now this is where the setup gets really clever. First, they let the sick bees go to town on one patch of flowers, potentially leaving parasites all over them. Then they took those infected bees completely out of the picture. And then they brought in the healthy bees and let them visit both the original possibly contaminated flowers and a second brand new, totally clean patch of flowers.
And the results they got back, honestly, they were kind of shocking. It's the kind of evidence that completely changes how you see the world.
So let's look at the first piece of evidence. When the infected honeybees were the providers, they found that after just 3 hours of them buzzing around, a staggering 59% of the flowers were contaminated with a honeybee parasite. So, yep, the sick bees were definitely leaving a mess behind. But here's the kicker, the real smoking gun. Remember that second set of flowers, the brand new, totally clean ones that the sick bees never even saw? Well, after the healthy bumblebees had been flying between both patches, a whopping 52% of those clean flowers were now contaminated with the honeybee parasite. The healthy bees had picked it up from the first patch and physically delivered it to the second. And this just drives the point home. This wasn't just some theoretical transfer. It had real consequences. By the end of the experiment, 23% of those perfectly healthy bumblebees were now infected with a parasite that came from honeybees. The species jump was real. So what was happening is that the healthy bees were acting as what scientists call a vector. They were these unwitting accomplices, like a delivery service for disease, picking up a dangerous package from one spot and dropping it off at another, all while just trying to do their jobs.
And listen, this wasn't just a one-time thing with a single parasite. They ran the experiment both ways, starting with sick honeybees and starting with sick bumblebees. And they found that a total of 5 different parasites, both honeybee and bumblebee types, were all being spread this way, using flowers as the transfer point and the other bee species as the delivery service.
So all of this evidence really forces us to see flowers in a completely new light. It changes their role in the entire ecosystem. The researchers themselves put it perfectly in their paper. They said that flowers are likely hotspots for parasite transmission. I mean, that word alone, hotspot, tells you everything. The flower isn't just a passive source of food. It's an active hub for spreading disease. So a better analogy might be this. Stop thinking of a flower like a clean table at a cafe and start thinking of it more like a doorknob in a busy public building. Or, that pole on the subway that everyone holds onto. It's a surface that countless individuals touch, each one leaving something behind and picking something new up. And get this, it gets even more specific. The study found that the actual shape of the flower can make a difference. Bell-shaped flowers saw up to a 36% increase in parasite spread compared to flat ones. Why? Well, probably because the bee has to wiggle in there and makes a lot more physical contact with the inside of the flower.
So, after all this detective work, what's the bottom line? Why does this matter for the bees and for us?
The implications here are actually huge. For starters, it means the health of managed honeybees, the ones we use for agriculture, is directly tied to the health of wild pollinators in the area. A sick hive can easily spill over into the wild population. It also means that when we bring in commercial bees to pollinate crops, we could be accidentally introducing new diseases to local bees through shared flowers. So if we want to protect our pollinators, we can't just focus on one species at a time. We have to look at the things that connect them, like these flower hotspots.
And this leaves us with this one final, really big question. If we were overlooking something as obvious and as beautiful as a flower, what other shared resources out there, water sources, nesting spots, what other parts of nature are playing these huge hidden roles right under our noses?